Hello everyone, this is Gorax. I'm not a fan of tier lists, but I prepared one for you because that's frequently asked question: which monsters should you be using when clearing stages? And we'll go straight into the tier list. This is the info you all been looking forward to. Obviously take it with a little bit of salt, as this is opinion based. This is based on the monsters that I've been using, and if you want to know more about why the choices are like this, stay and listen. So obviously the top tier rank is Sabrina. There is no one better at dealing damage than Sabrina at the moment. Sabrina was also available in the banner. On top of that, she has great utility. As while she's doing decent damage herself, she also gives double hit rate up to all allies melee and range, same as with her crit attack. She does damage dealt up to all range heroes, and damage dealt up is a huge buff. Then we have Cassandra. So Cassandra was still available in the banner, and the reason why we have Cassandra so high is because this game is based around critical rate. All these skills, crit attacks, will trigger only when you trigger crit rate, so having crit rate as much as possible is so mandatory, and she grants 20% of crit rate to all allies. She's a must-have monster in your team. You can leave her with 1 star, or well, 0 stars. Just 1 copy is enough, because that 3-star buff was not performing the way I would like it to. And then we have Grogan. Grogan is really powerful in the boss battle and defense battle as well. He's got CC that also reduces the evasion of the enemy monsters, which helps in tower defense and also in stages. Well, we actually don't miss in stages, but what we use is the Petrify CC, as it helps to keep the boss at bay. And his crit attack also gives crush rate up by 20% to all allies. And as we know, crit rate and crush rate are what is basically the end game all about. You want to have them maxed out and deal additional damage as much as possible. And then we have the new hero Artamiel. So he is taking the game by the storm. He's doing very good damage. I would say that if you get him to similar level as you get Sabrina, you might actually end up with him doing very similar damage. I only got to 1 copy of him, and he is the top 4 damage dealers in my team. By the end of his banner, I will definitely try and get more copies of him and give you an update how powerful he really is. If you have higher copies of him, please let me know in the comment section down below, as I want to compare the damage that he does. Now, the damage is not the only reason why he is so highly valued. It's mainly because his ultimate does damage reduction by damage resistance down by 20%, which is more than defense down that the monkey provides. Okay, so that's very important. And his crit attack increases the crush rate up of the melee heroes by 20%. We're not really looking for that in our team, as we're only using a few melee heroes, but it is welcome buff nonetheless. On top of his damage, huge damage numbers, he is doing good. And then we have the only unique hero that made it on the list. And the reason for that is Alucia is very easy to build. As you can see, I have her on the 2 purple stars, which is the same as my Sabrina. And she is doing solid damage. She is just behind the top 3, which is Sabrina, Artamiel, and Grogan. She is doing similar damage to Cassandra, who is 3-star legendary monster. The way we build her is utilizing crit rate. These are bad crit rate rolls, but as you can see, if we press on her in here, we will notice that during the fight, if we get the fight going, we will get crit rate to 57%. We obviously want more, but look at that crit damage, that's huge, right? But we want more, we want as much crit rate as possible, and this is why we are using these heroes. Now, A rank monsters are mostly supports with the exception of 2 damage dealers. So let's go over the supports first. They are not in a particular order, okay? Those are all very good supports. They will not do damage, but they will buff your Sabrina, Catherine, and whoever else you bring to the table. So Rina is a support that will increase all range allies attack by 20% and remove shield if enemy has it. While this doesn't really work in tower defense or some PvE modes, it is quite good to have in the PvP if there are shielders. I don't remember if we really have any shielders, truth to be told. But anyway, yeah, we don't really focus on the crit attack bonuses as we are not using that. We are mostly using this for the benefits of having Sabrina to have more attack. And then we have the light monkey, Kitian Dashang. The main reason we use him is to decrease the defense down of the enemies by 20%. Paired with Artamiel, it increases our damage output quite significantly. On top of that, when he crits, he will have cooldown reduction by 20%, which means he will be able to cast his ultimate so much faster. Charlotte, that's another support that will not do too much damage, but will reduce cooldown of all range heroes. So instead of waiting 10 seconds, you'll be waiting 8 seconds between your ultimates, which is very good. And if you have Venom on the target, she will deal additional 50% damage. Sadly, my team does not have Venom as there's no space for it. And then we move on to Delphi. So Delphi, you only use her if you have Grogan or someone else, increasing the crash rate of your monsters as her crit rate basically increases the crash damage by 20%. If you don't use Grogan or anyone else that boosts crash rate up, just don't bring her. You can replace her with someone else. And she also has a CC that is very welcome in the tower defense mode. Next is another melee hero that we bring to the table, and that's Jian. She is amazing as she buffs all allies attack speed by 20%, which is massive. And on top of that, she buffs herself with damage increase by 20% on her crit rate. She's also very useful in the tower defense mode to ensure we have extra attacks, especially early in the stage, to deal some extra damage. And then we move to the 2 optional damage dealers depending on who you have more copies of. Tessarion is quite strong, but you need someone to apply burn as well. I mean, this works for 10 seconds, right? And then we'll have this damage up by 20% we'll have the damage up by 20% on himself, and then additional 50 if the target has the burn. So it's quite important to apply this burn. You can bring other heroes to help him applying it, but you know, as long as you hit with this attack, you'll have the upkeep pretty much constantly. And he is quite good if you manage to get more copies of him, but it's very hard to get compared to Shiva, who can be upgraded through the event to 3 stars. That's what I'm doing right now. And she has move speed down debuff for 10 seconds, which is really helpful in the tower defense, but also she has crit damage up for the range here, free range monsters. Okay, so that's why we bring her. We are focusing on crit rate, so this buff here is a really powerful one to have. And if you have enough crit rate on her, which you should be focusing, you will be pretty much constantly with this buff. But that's once again requires more copies to boost that crit rate. And again, that's what makes crit rate so much more powerful. Now the B rank, we obviously need a tank. So there's a choice between Ariel, the one that I've been using because he was the first one that I got and I have more stars on him. He grants basically protection to our heroes that blocks the damage equal to 25% of their HP. And he also decreases the attack of the enemies by 20%, which even if he dies, as long as he crits, that buff will stay and we will be able to survive longer. The next monster will be able to survive longer. When it comes to the survivability, the tanks die very quickly at the later stages. So that's why, it is what it is, really. We get used to it. And then we have Ophelia, which is basically on the same tier. Whoever you got start higher, you bring. She instead increases the defense up of all allies, which increases the defense by 20%. And on her crit, she grants herself a graze rate by 20%, which means she's taking, I think, like 30% less damage if this does trigger. And those are the two tanks that I use. Let me know in the comment section down below which is your favorite tank, because as I said, the tanks don't really matter that much. Some people run without the tanks using evasion on their monsters. And then we have two B rank damage dealers that are not performing too well. Lucian, I have him, but I'm not really too keen on using him, as he is only buffing himself with the crush rate up. But again, if you run Grogan and Dolphia, you might consider running him as your damage dealer as well, because he will have already a higher crush rate, because on top of their buff, he will also apply the buff to himself, and he will apply the venom, which will mean Charlotte is doing more damage. And we have Verdeheal. I like vampire themes. I like hero monsters that can drain blood and etc. However, he is not really that great. He does AoE damage, boosts his own attack speed, and also applies bleed. But other than that, nothing really spectacular. He doesn't help our team in any way. He's like a selfish damage dealer. And then we have C-rank monsters, which will consist mostly of situational melee monsters. So first we have Mi Wong, which does increase his own crush rate up by 20%. And also if someone is under the freeze, he will deal 50% extra damage. And we have the PvP Panda, who does CC immunity for himself, and also something that works on the dragon and sometimes even on the bosses if you feel like they're critting you, that it will reduce the crit rate by 20%. I haven't really used him in the stages department. I just started using him in PvP and the dragon as well. And then we have Alicia. So she is not the greatest damage dealer on the stages, but she's very useful on the defense battle, as she has a free CC that also reduces the crit resistance by 20%. And when she freezes someone, she will deal a 50% increased damage to that target. And CC is really useful in the tower defense. It's not only about damage, but also that. And then we have Vanessa, who has a stun as well, very useful. That was my first pick, but other than that, she doesn't really do well. She increases attack of all melee monsters, but as I said, current meta is range. Now D rank are those that you don't really need to use in the stages because they don't provide much utility. So as you know, we don't use melee. So this Lapis, while she provides crit rate, if you don't run melee formation, she will not be very useful, and she also buffs her own attack speed. And then we have someone who will be a really powerful damage dealer, as he boosts his own crit damage by 20%, and also when the target has venom, deals extra 50%. But Galleon so far has been a big letdown. Same goes for Tetra. If I find Tetra, well, she's not even leveled, as you can see. So she's apparently good for boss battle, but I wouldn't say so, as she blocks recovery, which is no one uses that really. And okay, evasion down is quite good, I would say, in the situation where enemies can evade. They can't when you clear the stages, so that's why she is so low. And then we have Chasen. So everyone thinks that the healer is needed, but not really. We can use potions, and if our tanks are dead, then that means pretty much we are screwed. And before she casts her ultimate, tank is usually dead. Okay, I try her at the boss and the dragon dungeon as well, while my team could survive longer the damage was less because she doesn't do much damage. She does increase her own evasion, which is okay. Maybe we could run her as a frontline tank with full evasion as well, but you know, before you get this skill, she is not really that worth it. And I mean, if you build enough crush hit, maybe this will work, but crush rate is so hard to get. And then we have Celestia, who is really low on this tier list, mainly because of the stages, but she is really, really useful in the tower defense stages. You could probably boot her to A rank if you focus on tower defense, as this accuracy buff is really important to ensure you're constantly hitting the enemy waves. However, this doesn't really bother us at all. It only is useful in PvP at the moment. So yeah, if you want to use her in the tower defense, be my guest. She's really powerful. I always use her, and that will boost her to A rank. But since we're focusing on stages, mostly she is the D rank here, as she is only used for that one purpose. But you got her early on, and yeah, definitely level her up and use her in the tower defense. And that pretty much sums up this tier list. This is the V1.0 with the Artamiel added now. Hopefully this was useful to you guys. If you want to see the next version once we get the new monster, please subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!